Welcome to Weasel Digital. And today I'm going to be going back to making some guides. We have a big group of new players coming in due to EA Play, and they are flying some really bad builds from what I've seen. So if you have questions about how to fly particular ships, I have videos on that. I have some equipment videos, but this one specifically is going to be a group of suggested builds. So some different build ideas to make the best out of these ships. So today we're going to be looking at our X-Wing. So I'm going to be giving you 6 builds actually for the X-Wing. Most of these are going to be 5 build, but the X-Wing is going to be a little bit longer because I have 6 builds I want to go over. And these are some general builds. I'll be giving you what kind of equipment you want to put in on them, how you want to fly them, and kind of the skill level that you're looking for with them. So, some general overview information. If you want to look at best equipment and stuff, go find those guides. I have some of those guides for you that can walk you through every piece of equipment for the ship and tell you what's best. Those still hold true. But for some standard information here, most of the time I'm going to be building these with standard blasters. There's a few builds that are going to be burst blasters, but that's really kind of up to you. If you're more comfortable with one over the other, the standard blasters give you more ammo. You're going to shoot for longer. You're not going to run out of ammo. They're actually a little bit easier for most players to track targets because it's a continual rate of fire instead of the bursts of fire, where during those bursts, if you miss, you're missing all your damage, where you can kind of adjust your aim with the standard blasters. Now the downside is with the standard blasters, you're doing a lot less DPS. So keep that in mind. I favor the ray shields over most other shields. They're just a straight up good, dependable shield. Most of your damage is going to be coming from blasters, not from missiles. And you have other ways to deal with missiles. So most of the time I'm going to be going with ray shields. Those are the two big issues with these builds you're going to see a lot of times. So with that, we'll get right into it. I'm going to be giving some different builds for both dogfighting and for fleet battles. There are some times I'm going to tell you that it's specifically only for this or it's specifically only for that, and I'll tell you why too. So the first build we're going to look at here is a dogfighter build, and I call it the Dogfighter. It's an X-Wing built specifically for dogfighting, and it really is only good in the dogfighting game mode. You really don't want to use it in fleet battles because its lower speed is going to get you hurt. So let's go ahead and take a look at this one. As I said, I'm going to be building these with standard laser cannons. In combat, I actually prefer the standard laser cannons over the burst. There are some situations where burst is better. If you're really good at aiming those weapons, the burst is the better choice. But we're going to go with the standard laser cannon here. With dogfighting, we're going to be taking lots of damage. We're going to be giving lots of damage. Having that repair droid there so it can repair our health when our shields go down is essential. That'll keep us alive longer, less kills to the enemy team, more time to get kills while we're alive. For our right auxiliary, we're going to be going with our concussion missile. Concussion missile, 1,000 damage, 2-second lock on, 1,000 meter range, 6.5 second cooldown. Pretty good all around weapon. Medium homing, you carry 6 of those. They give a nice big punch. So great way to add to your laser damage. Countermeasures, this is one that pretty much across the board I'm always going Seeker Warheads. Seeker Warheads are better in almost all cases. The sensor jammer has a very limited ammo capacity and a long cooldown. The particle burst, the chaff particle, stays put. So if those missiles are coming from you from in front of you or from the side, they're not going to do any good. Chaff particles are hard to use against mines. They're just not the most effective. That's why I like the Seeker warheads are just kind of all-around better system to use for defense. Now, your mileage may vary a little bit there. There's certainly situations where that chaff particle, the particle burst, may be better for you, specifically on something that's attacking capital ships where you're going to be making passes. For hull on this one, we're going with the light hull. Light hull increases our acceleration and our maneuverability at a loss of health. Maneuverability is key in dogfights. Being able to turn fast, being able to track your targets, getting that maneuverability high is important. Again, raised shields are the way to go. It reduces primary damage taken while increasing auxiliary damage, but you have other ways to deal with auxiliary damage. A lot of times if you're getting hit with auxiliary damage, you're going to be hurting anyways. And last up is our engine, and we're going with the microthrust engine. That's going to increase our maneuverability again while reducing our acceleration and max speed. Now, from what we can tell here, we're doing a lot of maneuverability with some weapons and a little bit of defense here. That's going to lower our max hull to 960, keeping our shields at 800. Speed falls to 101, max acceleration is at 136, maneuverability is at 108.8. So we have a high maneuverable ship with okay damage, fairly good survivability. Now the build you'll see me play a lot, especially in dogfights, is this kind of knife fighter style A-wing that I'll be getting to more when I deal with that video. But if you look at the stat comparison, this has 500, the X-Wing has 500 more hull, has 300 more shield, has a little bit slower speed, not much, 101 compared to 112. Max acceleration is basically the same, and maneuverability is actually a little bit higher than the A-Wing. So what you're doing here effectively compared to my knife fighter A-Wing is you are trading a little bit weaker weapons in the X-Wing for higher survivability. So you increase the hull and the shields while lowering your DPS. If you're struggling to do damage anyways, but you're having trouble staying alive, this becomes a better option for you than the A-Wing, because the A-Wing is very, very fragile. But the speed, acceleration, maneuverability stats are almost the same, while your survivability is much higher. Almost double the survivability. So, great dogfighter. It's a good ship. Its one problem is it lacks a little bit of damage, but those missiles can help. So, solid fighter. I would say this is kind of a mid ability ship. If it's not necessarily a great beginner ship, but it's not bad. But it takes a little bit of skill to really kind of make the most out of this, because you're going to be fighting in close with that maneuverability, really taking tight turns, tracking those targets. A quick alternate to that is switching in the plasburst laser cannons. Plasburst laser cannons have a huge DPS of 882. This thing, when fully charged, can actually knock out interceptors fairly well. It does a lot of damage to a lot of other ships too, but it can knock out interceptors in like one hit if you're really lucky and have it charged. The one downside to this is you do have to charge it and then release that shot. And if you're not a good aim, you're going to be missing a lot of DPS this way. The other downside, besides its limited range of 600 meters, is that while you're charging, you take extra damage. So you really have to be careful with this. If you try this out, the plasburst laser cannon, it's really a high-skilled build at that point. You don't want to be starting off with this if you're a new player. Stick to either your standard lasers, or if you're a good shot, go with those burst cannons. When you get much better as a pilot and you can really aim those shots, the plasburst laser cannon can be very devastating. So that's our dogfighter, built specifically for dogfighter matches. Now next up, we're going to be looking at a fleet battle build. And this is my component sniper. This ship is built specifically to target the enemy capital ship, that Imperial Star Destroyer, and specifically to knock out components. So what you want to do with this one is you're going to build it with a burst cannon. We're not going to be worried about hitting fighters. We're only going to be worried about hitting large stationary targets. So the burst cannon is the way to go. Our left auxiliary is going to be the proton torpedo, which can do 4,000 damage. Now you have to watch that lock-on distance. You can start locking on at 1,500 meters. Minimum range to fire this missile is 500 meters. Both of the missiles you're using on this build are going to be that way. So you want to start that lock-on at 1,500, and you want to hold that lock as long as you can until you get below 600 meters. Then fire those missiles. If you fire them as soon as you get the lock, that gives the enemy more time to shoot your missiles down. So it's best to wait until that sub 600 meter range, then fire those missiles. Has a cooldown of 10 seconds, only 2 shots. Very weak homing. You're not going to use this against fighters. You're going to use this against the capital ship. Your right auxiliary, we're going with the experimental piercing torpedo. Half the damage at 2,000. A little bit quicker lock-on time. Lock-on range is the same. Cooldown is a little bit faster at 8 seconds, and you do have 3 of these. Again, weak homing. Lock is required. Can't fire under that minimum range. But this missile pierces shields, so it can bypass the shields of the enemy ship. So what you're going to do with this ship is you're going to come in at a wide angle from the side. Your first target's going to be those shield generators. You're going to come in from a wide angle at the sides. Don't come up the nose of the ship, that it leaves you open to enemy fire for a long time. That ship's going to be doing a lot of shooting at you. So come in from the sides, target the near shield generator, get to that 1,500 meters. You're going to start that lock on. Once they both lock on and you get to under 600 meters, you fire both missiles. Then you're going to boost away from the enemy ship. You're going to get past the 1,500 meter mark, start your turn, come back and make another pass. If the shields are up, you're going to do 4,000 damage to the shields and 2,000 damage to your target. If the shields are down, you're going to do 6,000 damage to the targeted component. That is a lot of damage. You're going to do significant damage to the enemy ship. When you're making your approach and you're below 1,000 meters prior to firing those missiles, go ahead and fire with your laser cannons too. They're either going to be doing damage to the component or damage to the shields. Either way, it helps you out. This is a great X-Wing build for taking out shield generators. After that, you can use it against the targeting system and then even the power system underneath the ship. Very powerful, very useful. And the whole plan is make that attack run, fire the missiles, then speed away. So this ship you're going to be flying in full engine mode all the time. You're going to boost up your shields, fly it full speed with full power to engines, use your boosts, that kind of stuff. For countermeasures, we're going to be using seeker warheads. There's a good chance you'll get shot at by missiles while you're making your attack run on the capital ship. There's a good chance you'll get shot at missiles when you go past. Those seeker warheads come in very handy on this build. I go with the reinforced hull. It's certainly possible to go with a different build. If anything, I would suggest the dampener hull. I like the reinforced hull because it does allow me to make several runs. Typically, when you're making those attack runs, you're going to take some hits. They're going to take your shields down. They're going to start doing some hull damage. So when you're flying past it, after you've shot your missiles, you flip over to your shields, regen your shields till you get to that 1,500 meter mark, turn around, start charging your engines again. That reinforced hull keeps you able to make several attack runs. We're going to go with the ray shields. Most of the damage you're going to be taking is from the enemy capital ships, main battery guns. Those are going to be laser damage or primary damage. So this reduces that damage you take. And our engine is going to be our thrust engine. That increases our speed by 30% while reducing our acceleration and maneuverability. Now our hull reduces our acceleration and maneuverability too. So you'll see this thing is fast, but extremely low on acceleration and extremely low on maneuverability. This thing's not good for dogfighting in any way, shape, or form. Your max hull is increased to 1920. You still have 800 shields. Your max speed is cranked up to 188.5. That is high. That is a fast ship. You're going to get across the map to do your attack run real quickly. And when you're making that burst escape after you're shooting your missiles, you're going to go very fast. Problem is, when you want to turn around and make that second attack run, it is going to be a wide arc. Your maneuverability is low. You're going to have to cut it down to half power to make that turn as tight as you can. And your acceleration and deceleration are very slow. So this is very much attack run, wide arc, attack run kind of vehicle. I love using it to take out shield generators, though. It's very effective for that. Next up is another dogfighting ship, and this one can be used in either fleet battles or in dogfights. We're going to go with our standard laser cannons. Again, if you're a better aim, feel free to go with the burst cannon. That's certainly acceptable. If you're really good, you can go with the plasburst laser cannon too. This one is a little bit easier to go with the plasburst laser cannon because your main thing is going to be disabling the target. Now, you don't get to do it very often, so you are going to have to use plasburst laser cannon against mobile targets too. That's where these other ones maybe come out a little bit better. Certainly the burst cannon's a good option on this one. Plasburst isn't bad either. We're going to go with a repair droid to keep us in battle as long as possible. And instead of the concussion missile, we're going to be going with our ion missile. Now the ion missile does 6,000 ion damage. It's an ion weapon, so that's going to remove shields of enemy ships, and it's going to shut them down. So you're going to disable that ship, and it's going to be floating dead in space on whatever trajectory it was on when you hit it with the missile. Lock-on time is 1 second, very quick. Lock-on range is 1,500 meters, so you can actually get these shot off before you're even in weapon range. Cooldown's very long at 20 seconds, but you do have 6 of these. It has medium homing capabilities. So the point here is to get in range of that lock-on, fire that missile, disable the enemy ship, and then kill it with your laser cannons while it can't do anything in return. That's where hitting it with the burst cannon may be a better option. If you're looking to experiment with burst cannons, this is a good ship to do it with because you're going to have a lot of immobilized targets that are easy targets, and you'll be able to take some time shooting at moving targets too. Countermeasures is seeker warheads. Going to go with the dampener hull. Dampener hull increases hostile lock time for missiles, makes it so you're going to see far less missiles shot at you. You take a slight hit on health for that, but it's worth it. For shields, I'm going to go with the ray shields again. Reduces that primary damage. And we're going to go with the standard engines. This isn't so much a real heavy dogfighter. It's kind of a moderate dogfighter. You want to disable ships, kill them while they're easy to hit. The rest of your time, you're going to be doing what you can to support your team until those missiles reload, and you can fire another ion missile at a new target. If we look at the stats on this, we can see our hull is reduced a little bit, and that's just due to our dampener hull. Our shields, max speed, acceleration, maneuverability all stay at the standard amount, but we do slow those hostile locks. If we look at our dogfighter build, we can see we're going to have more hull, we're going to have more speed, more acceleration, but we lose that maneuverability. But because our primary targets are going to be disabled, it's not that big of a deal. This is a good build for rookie players. I say that because it's a pretty standard build, and those ions are going to make it so you disable someone that you can easily kill. That's going to allow you to put some kills on the board. A lot of time rookie players struggled to just even line up shots, getting action in, really help out at all. Disabling people with these missiles, huge help. Make it easier targets for you. You can actually really start to contribute. Next up is the Shield Breaker. This is specifically designed for fleet battles. Do not use it in dogfights. This ship is built with one thing in mind, and that's stripping the shields off all of the capital ships. The best way to use this is when you're watching that initial exchange in a fleet battle, when your side is just about to win that morale game. Either the timer's going down and you have a solid win going there, or your team's just flat out going to kill it in morale and gain that advantage. You want to switch up to this X-Wing. So quickly fly back to your ship, or if you just recently got knocked out, select this ship. Take this in against those light cruisers. You're going to rip the shields off those things so ridiculously fast. That allows the rest of your team to just get in and do hull damage and knock those ships out way quicker. It's also good to use against the Imperial Star Destroyer. So if you know your team's going to be switching over to offense here pretty soon, you can tell by the morale bar, then you can switch to this build and strip a lot of shields off the Imperial Star Destroyer. So let's take a look at this build. Our primary weapon is going to be the ion cannon. And as you can see, the ion cannon does a lot of damage, but that's ion damage. Great at disabling fighters, stripping shields. However, it doesn't do a lot of actual hull damage. So your hull damage gets reduced greatly if the shields are down. That's why it's just better for stripping shields here. Our left auxiliary weapon is going to be the ion missile. We talked about this one before. This one does 6,000 damage, medium homing, 6,000 ion damage. It's not going to do much hull damage, but it's going to help strip those shields. Now our right auxiliary is the really impressive one. That's our ion torpedo, which does 24,000 ion damage. Combined, by firing both missiles, you're going to do 30,000 ion damage. Now, this also has a slight area effect, so if anything else is nearby, it may lose its shields or get shut down also. Lock-on time is 3 seconds. It is a longer range lock-on at 1,500 meters, and you have to fire it before you hit 500 meters. So it's best around 600 meters to be firing that off. Cooldown is very long, but you only have 1 ammo for this. Lock is required, can't fire under that minimum range, and it has weak homing. Really only effective against those capital ships, so those light cruisers and the Imperial Star Destroyer. So what you're going to do, again, you want to anticipate using this, because this ship becomes almost worthless if there's no shields. When you anticipate your side's going to win the morale fight and you're going to be on offense, switch out to this ship. You're going to be taking a nice fast run at the enemy ships, get those lock-ons, fire those missiles, strip those shields off completely. If you get the shields knocked off one, focus on the second one and start working on it. Now you can, if you prefer, you can swap out that 6,000 damage ion missile for the ion rockets. These are dumbfire weapons. They do 300 ion damage for each one that you fire. You do have an ammo capacity of 30. I find this ship has limited survivability against the Star Destroyer. You're not going to get to make a lot of passes. So I actually prefer this when doing the Star Destroyer, this when doing the light cruisers. So ion missiles for light cruisers, ion rockets for the Star Destroyer. This way you're able to loose all of your 30 missiles that are doing 300 ion damage each very quickly. You're going to make sure you unload all of those while you unload your one big ion torpedo. Again, we're going to go with countermeasures. We're going to go with our dampener hull to reduce incoming laser fire. We're going to go with our ray shields. Our dampener hull is to reduce the chance of getting missile shot at us. Ray shields is to reduce the primary damage taken. And thrust engines for speed. Now we can see here our max hull goes down a little bit due to our hull choice. Shields stay the same. Max speed, again, is accelerated quite highly. Our acceleration maneuverability are not as bad as they are on our component sniper, but they're not great. You're not going to be using this to dogfight with. You're going to be using this specifically to take on those shields of the enemy capital ships, the light cruisers, and the Imperial Star Destroyers. And again, I can't stress how nice it is to see those shields just drop instantly. Your team will really appreciate you taking those shields out instead of having to take multiple runs with weaker weapons against them. I do want to go back. I want to talk about this disabler a little bit more. This is the guy that uses the ion missiles, disables enemy ships. I said this is good in either build. One way that this is really kind of a nice build in fleet battles, since we've been talking about those a little bit, is as a defender. You set up near where the enemy ships are going to be making their attack runs from. You can target them with that ion missile from a long way out. You can disable them. They'll float in nice and slow without moving around too much. It makes it easier for your capital ships to fire on them. It makes it easy for you to pick them off while they're not able to line up their attack runs, which means it's harder for them to shoot their missiles. It's harder for them to shoot their weapons. Makes them more vulnerable. It's just all around a great way to shut down people making attack runs on your capital ships. So that was our disabler, and then we talked about that shield breaker again with all our ion weaponry. Next up is what I call a strike fighter. This ship is about doing just massive amounts of damage. I should say also the shield breaker is actually kind of a low skill ship. You don't have to be very talented to be able to use this ship well. It's the timing issue. Make sure you time out when you're switching to this ship so that you can make the most use out of it. So back to our fifth build here, our strike fighter. This is a dogfighting build and really only good for dogfighting build. The reason these builds are really only good for dogfighting is slow speed ships in fleet battles are bad. You will get hit more often by the capital ships if you're running a slow speed ship. So this is a dogfight only ship, but it is a high damage potential. You're sacrificing all your survivability for damage capability. This is a higher skill ship because of that. I would suggest laser cannons early on. If you are good, you can go with the burst cannons. Again, the plas burst is an option. I wouldn't necessarily suggest it on this one, though, because you don't have any way to recover health, really. We're going with our ion missiles to hopefully disable some ships. And our concussion missiles just to do large amounts of damage. And you can actually fire both at the same time, but I like to alternate fire. Disable ships that have shields, so your defenders and their support ships, the Reapers. Or just disable anything that's just being a pain in the butt for you. And then your concussion missiles are your high damage ones. Our countermeasures, again, are Seeker warheads. Our hull is the light hull. We're going for maneuverability here. Ray shields to reduce that incoming primary damage. And the microthrust engines for higher maneuverability. What this builds is a slightly weaker ship at 960. No repairs for that hull. Our speed and acceleration are reduced again for dogfighting, but our maneuverability is jacked way up. And we're going to be doing as much damage as possible. Disabling the shields and ships with our ions, doing damage with our concussions and our burst or standard cannons.
You know how to pick them.
We're going to be highly maneuverable so we can get those shots on. We can keep people targeted to get those missile locks. That maneuverability really pays off there. Again, this is a high skill strike fighter type build. When you take damage, you're going to keep that damage. Your survivability is low. So it's get in, target them, shoot them down, move on. Now, one last build I want to put out there, and this is more of a beginner build. It's what I call the Rock. This one we're going to go with our standard laser cannon because it's a beginner build. We want to give them an easy weapon to work with. We're going to go with our repairs. Our repairs. Keep us alive as long as possible. And for our right auxiliary, we are going to stick with our concussion missiles to do some damage. Countermeasures is Seeker warheads, obviously. And we're going to go with our reinforced hull. And we're going to go with our fortified deflector screen. And then we're going to stick with our micro thrust. Now what that does for us is it increases our max hull to 1920. Increases our shields to 960. Giving you a huge survivability. That's adding 880 health total to your ship between the max hull and max shields. It's going to mean you're going to survive a lot longer battle. Our max speed and acceleration is reduced a little bit. Not a huge deal there. And our maneuverability is tweaked upwards just a little bit to help out in those dogfighting situations. This obviously is a dogfighting type ship. Nice part is with that increased hull and shields, you're going to be much harder to shoot down. Interceptors can typically, if they catch up to an X-Wing, rip it a new one. They're going to cut through those shields and cut through that hull very quickly against X-Wings. However, if you have this increased hull and increased shields, that extra survivability means they're going to run out of their boosted attack damage before they can kill you. You're going to have time to react. You're going to have time to either kick that power to engines and try to escape, kick that power to engines and try to dogfight with them, or just survive long enough for someone else on your team to hopefully scare them off or help them out. A lot of times when those interceptor class ships run out of ammunition, they'll break away anyways and go recharge before trying to come back at you, especially if there's any other players in the vicinity. So if you're a brand new player and you're having a hard time just staying alive, this X-Wing can really make the difference and keep you in the game a little bit longer, especially with that repair that you have on there. So there's 6 builds. We have our Dogfighter build that is specifically for dogfighting. That's this one up here. We have our Component Sniper for taking out enemy components on the Star Destroyer, the shield generators primarily. Then secondly, we can go for the targeting computer. Next up, we have our Disabler. This is our ion missiles, which is used in dogfighting scenarios, but can be used in fleet battle, for dogfighting in fleet battle, also for defense in fleet battle, when you're defending those capital ships. We have our Shield Breaker, which is used just to strip the shields off those light cruisers and the Star Destroyer. Make sure you plan ahead accordingly for that. We have the Strike Fighter build, which is a very offense-orientated ship, meant to just take out players in dogfights as fast as possible. And then we have our Rock, which is our kind of low-skill player, high survivability ship that's just meant to keep them in the game as long as possible. If you're a new player, you can try that Rock build. That Disabler build there is also a pretty good one for you too. So with that, I hope you have some new builds you can try out. I hope to see you in dogfights and fleet battles. I wish you the best of luck. I hope this will help you build your fighters a little bit and do more damage, be more effective in combat. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.